how much did you spend on your structure?
I think it was like $187.
What?
What's up, everyone?
Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to Breaking the Grid, the podcast where we talk about self-sufficiency, off-grid living, and life without society. Last week's episode, we talked about what life was like out there for Dan. We went into a lot of the topics that were from his book, Breaking the Grid. So this week, we are going to talk about another chapter from his book, the last chapter called Take the Plunge. It's everything you need to know about prepping, the preparation stage of leaving society, because we don't recommend anyone to just go out there and survive out there in the wilderness tomorrow. There is quite a bit of research and work and effort that goes into the preparation stages to ensure your highest chances of survival.
And that's the difference between a survivalist and someone that's self-sufficient. Is a survivalist just goes out in the woods and can survive. He can make his little hut. He can make a fire. He can do all these things. I almost know nothing about those things, and
Mm.
yet I am extremely knowledgeable about living out there self-sufficiently.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in your book, in that last chapter, you've laid out what you have found to work best for you, what you did wrong, and how to circumnavigate the process of preparation as effortlessly, efficiently, and on the least amount of money as possible. And obviously, everything that we say today, you can take with a grain of salt, adapt it to your own situation, or just ignore it. In which case, you can stop watching the episode now.
And repeat all the exact same mistakes that I made.
Yeah. And something to keep in mind, Dan, we want to put ourselves in the shoes of these people as a beginner. You know, it's scary to leave your whole life behind. That's what you essentially did. And we understand that it's scary. It was scary for him, and it was scary for me to leave also. So we're gonna do our best. This is actually like our first kind of how-to video. We've went through a lot of background stuff with me and Dan in the past two episodes. So this is kind of our first, like, here's something we can give to you for your self-improvement or whatever.
Yeah, our input,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
which is it's going to work good because we have two viewpoints of it. Someone that's not very knowledgeable and people can relate to very easily, and then somebody who's very knowledgeable that we can try to explain it in a very relatable way.
Mm-hmm. So how did you approach leaving society? What was your planning process like?
Back then, there was no YouTube, not many how-to books on doing this, no websites. Didn't really have much of an internet at that time. But I went to the library. I tried to get any book on how to live off the grid, how to be self-sufficient, which were like written in the 60s when the hippies were doing. So they were like teaching me how to make baskets and stuff. And I'm like, tell me how to make a blender so I can make my margaritas. I wasn't trying to live like in a cave.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of went out and learned everything I could in trade schools and apprenticeships, community college courses, anything from basic electricity to pottery to blowing glass to working metal, welding. I just basically went to a mechanic shop and said, can I be your helper? And for free, work for free for you.
Mm-hmm.
And you do all the grunt work, but you learn about auto mechanics. And
Mm-hmm.
that was really essential in a lot of that's probably the only right decision I did was
Wow.
just go and learn as much as I could.
Wow, that's pretty impressive that you were willing to dedicate yourself to all of that education.
Like you said, you can't just go out there and into the wilderness and then expect to do any of this stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what we think. We see TV shows and movies that gloritize these things and make it look like, oh, anybody can. If there's an end of the world event, I can survive out there. I can do it. And maybe
Right.
you can survive, but we're not talking about surviving. We're talking about thriving.
Right.
And so there's a big difference. And knowledge is
Right.
the key there.
Yeah. Surviving and thriving, there's two different meanings to those words. Surviving is living on, the bare minimum, taking life day by day, and thriving is your
Abundance.
highest, right? Your
Yeah.
highest chances of survival.
Yeah.
Survival on the farthest top end
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
surviving.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, definitely. How many years did it take you to prep? Because it sounds, I mean, you can't just learn pottery and bricklaying in a few months.
Yeah, I mean, years.
Years.
Yeah, years. We could go all the way back to when I learned, how to hunt and trap as a teenager,
Yeah.
how to use guns, how to clean guns, how to take guns apart, how to garden as a kid, how to grow plants. Yeah, the hardcore learning where I really jumped into it a couple years before we left, for sure.
Wow. That's the complete opposite of me. I did everything last minute
Yeah,
because you had years of preparation. I had no preparation, and I was just like, I just want to leave California
yeah,
and I just want to start a self sufficient life. And I left with no knowledge. I didn't know how to ride a bike
yeah,
until I came here.
yeah.
Dan had to teach me so much, and I think it was a lot harder for me. It still is really hard for me.
Yeah, but I think in your case, and probably a lot of people's case, a big part of that is that you just didn't do many things as a kid. Like you said, ride a bike or
Yeah.
like climb up a hill or climb a tree or use simple hand tools. When I
Mhm.
was 13, I knew how to hammer nails and my dad had me out there building fences and stuff. And you just
Yeah.
didn't get to do any of that stuff.
No, I didn't. Yeah, so for someone like me, the path to preparation is probably going to be a lot longer and a little bit more difficult. Not saying it's impossible because I'm here and I'm doing it. So it's not impossible, but it is going to be a lot harder.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Was there any specific goals or milestones during your preparation stage that you wanted to hit?
I mean, we wanted to leave as soon as possible. We wanted, like you said, we just wanted, like you did. We
Yeah.
just wanted to cut out and leave. But we knew that wasn't the intelligent thing to do, and that we might actually die out there if that's the
Yeah.
case. But we didn't want to stay there forever. We didn't want to prolong this. And that's the thing about learning is that there's always more to learn.
Mhm.
There's always something else you can learn. I studied all these different things, all the things in my book for 2 or 3 years. I could have spent another 2 or 3 I could have spent 30 more years
Mhm.
learning everything there is about, circuitry, woodworking, and how to make drywall or something.
Mhm.
Um, and you could get in that trap and get stuck in there. So I just really wanted to learn the most important things, and then we'd figure the rest out
Right.
there
So give yourself a set deadline
and stick to it
and stick
because
to
you
it.
can keep pushing that back.
Right.
There's always something else to learn for sure.
Right. And obviously you don't need to learn everything under the sun, but the basics will get you a long way,
Right.
right?
I didn't need to know how to make drywall. Just a basic knowledge of electricity could get me far enough.
Right. And I hate to tell everyone this, but sometimes you're just going to have to learn things the hard
That
way.
was the biggest way to learn 'em,
Yeah.
is the 3 years we learned before. I mean, we studied and learned things
Yeah, all
before.
that education. Mhm.
It was the 3 years after that when you're actually boots on the ground, hands on, you learn really quick.
Mhm. And that's something I learned even in college, just taking college courses. The what you learn in a controlled classroom environment isn't necessarily what you're going to take out to the practical real world. And unfortunately, that's just sort of the way that it is.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. We did more learning out there, and that was with a huge knowledge base going out there.
Mhm.
I think we did everything the hard way, and it could have been and should have been a lot easier,
Mhm.
than what we made it.
Right. So acquiring skills is an important part of preparing for leaving society. Something you mentioned in your book was asking the question, why? So you want to ask yourself why. That purpose is what really drives you when you're out there. It has to be a purpose that's going to continue to motivate you while you're out there. If I just want to leave society to, I don't know, save money, or well, that's a good reason too,
Yeah,
but
that's a great
yeah, that's a great reason. Never mind, not save money. That's a great reason is to go and live off the grid. But if you wanna go out there because you think it looks fun, you know, you're gonna learn really quick and really fast that it's a hard life out there and you're gonna stop. So, if you can solve the why in any other ways, I would highly suggest that you try to solve that why any other ways before you put yourself in a situation and you decide this isn't necessarily what you want.
Yeah.
We also highly suggest that you go through and start making like a rough outline for your needs and your wants when you're out there and how you plan on achieving those things. For example, needs, which is water, food, shelter, medical, and for me, social, and my wants, entertainment, money. But it might look different for you guys. Maybe money is a need and social is just a want. So it's up to you guys to sort of make this rough outline and then seeing how you can achieve these things. So, water, what are you going to do for water? Well, rain catchment, river, creek. How are you going to achieve these things? Are you going to build the well on your own? If you are, you're going to have to start learning how to drill a well. If you're going to go to a property that already has a well, you're going to have to start saving for a property that already has a well
And learning how to maintain your well.
and learning how to maintain your well, right? If you're going to have someone else build it for you, again, you're going to have to save. It's probably going to be a couple of thousands, maybe hundreds if you can find that labor on the cheap side. But you're going to start having to save to start building your well. And for you, when you went out there, it was a rain catchment system.
Mm.
And obviously, a lot of things came into that decision. It was your location, you were in the desert, and you built your structure on top of a cliff, which then you'd have to drill the well another hundred, thousands, maybe
Yeah, 1,000 feet or something.
1,000 feet. Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of components that come into this. And just starting that rough outline, if you're serious about this, it sort of helps you start that initial exploration, whether it's money that you need or whether it's education that you need, whatever it is, you want to start building that rough outline. And it's going to be different for every person. Everything that we're telling you guys applies to all levels of off-grid living, whether you just want to be a little bit more self-sufficient or if you want to do what Dan did and leave society as a whole.
You touch on a good point, which is a big factor of this, a big aspect is some of these things that are needs like water or food and whatnot. Since little kids, we're programmed and brainwashed by society, Hollywood, teachers to have this dream of what different dreams look like. And like the white picket fence, that's been driven to us and that we want a white picket fence for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
But like if you've always dreamt of having your own well and you're like, I'm going to go out there, be off the grid and I'm going to have my well. That's going to be so cool because I can crank it up to the little bucket. That's so cute. And then you get out there and you realize you have to drill 5,000 feet down and it's going to cost $400,000 to make a well. You're like, there goes that dream.
Mm-hmm.
So the education part of this is also affects your wants and needs in that even though that's a need, you still want it to be a certain way. And you have to be able to change those wants and those pre-programmed needs for things to be a certain way to actually what is the best way to your location and where you're at.
Right. We talked in the last episode about how a lot of those needs turned into wants. How once you're out there and you're living out there, you realize what you really need. And when you're here, even when you're making that needs and wants list, you don't really recognize what is a need and what is a want necessarily yet. The outline is good for you to start prepping for those things, but it's hard for you to really gauge your needs and your wants until you're actually there. Getting back on topic of acquiring skills and whatnot, what skills did you actually use when you were out there? Because you almost learned everything under the sun. That's why I was telling you, you don't need to learn everything. But Dan went to the extreme, doing a whole bunch of things. So what
The
skills did
skill I
you
learned
use?
the most and used the most was probably how to make drywall. How just kidding.
What? I was like, we just got there saying how that was not a necessary
The
skill.
most important skill is how to make your own drywall with lime and calcium pulp.
You guys heard it here first. That's the
Paperback.
most important skill.
Metallurgy, how to melt iron, separate the purities to make and temper steel, how to mine and look for iron and other minerals. Welding, absolutely. Photovoltaics, solar power systems, wind turbines, how they work. Woodworking, I learned construction, cabinet making,
Yeah.
how to make rope, how to make fabric,
Wow.
how to weave, how to knit, how to some medicine, medical.
So you learned all of that while you were in society.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
if you had to learn how to perform basic surgeries when you're out there,
Oh, yeah.
you're probably only gonna get 1 try, and then
Oh,
you're not gonna learn too much about it.
yeah.
But,
That's
yeah.
it for that.
Yeah, we learned pretty much, like, every co even, like, psychology and sociology and religion to understand what our mind was gonna go through.
Mm,
Because it's a toll on your mind and your spirit as much as it is a toll on your body.
mhm,
And we had to learn how to navigate emotional and mental strains on ourselves and between each other,
mhm,
um, me and my ex-wife, so that we could deal with that.
mm.
Because out there, there's no going to psychologists, a counselor for marriage help. There's no going to a doctor. There's no
Wow.
going to an electrician to fix your wiring problem.
That kinda leads me to my next question is there a certain type of personality or characteristic traits that you need to develop? Because 'Cause you're not only just when we're talking about skills, like Dan was saying, it's not just tangible skills. It's a lot of interpersonal skills you have to build and mental coping mechanisms that you have to develop. So what sort of personality or characteristic traits would you recommend that people start developing?
Naive,
You want someone
dumb,
to be
yeah.
naive?
Yeah, anyone in their right mind would have second thoughts about going out there and doing what we did.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I think that to a certain point, you have to kind of not know what you're doing. As much
Oh.
as much as you have to know what you're doing, you kinda have to go in there and not know everything that goes behind doing all this, because if you did know, you wouldn't do it. The things that these people went through, like our forefathers and ancestors, and even the hippies that moved off and lived off the land, they went and we did too. We went through they went through extreme heat, extreme drought, hunger. These are things you don't really want to naturally put your body through in your mind. So to some degree, a little bit of ignorance as to what's coming, then you can kind of overcome it little by little.
Oh.
But if you knew everything that went into climbing Everest, you're gonna say, "There's no way I can do that."
But how do you develop that? That's like
Yeah, I don't know how you can dumb yourself down.
yeah, it's like the concept of the Matrix, Cypher, the
Going
character
back
from
in
the
the
Matrix.
Matrix.
Right. He wanted to become ignorant again. And in the movie, they can just, unplug him, plug him back in.
Yeah.
But in the real life, it's hard to it's I think it's almost easier to learn and become smart than to like dumb yourself down. I don't even know how to begin that.
That this kinda goes back to, setting that point and not learning, not continuously gaining
Oh, the
knowledge.
deadline.
Yeah, because the more you research about this and the more documentaries you see and the more personal experiences and accounts that you read, the more you're gonna learn, "Wow, this is tough." And you
Mm,
do need some of that. You need a little of that, so you don't walk in completely blind. But
mhm,
if you have too much of it, it's gonna turn you off to it.
mm,
And then the second, element I would suggest is, and it kinda goes with this, is just a lot of heart,
mm.
a lot of confidence, a lot of drive, determination, even a little obsessive compulsive nature, because someone that's just like, "Eh,"
Yeah.
when they take on a task or need to do house chores or something, I'm like, "I'll do it later," that's a trait that doesn't really work out there.
Yeah, it's very
Because
dangerous to have that mentality out
Right,
there.
right, because you're gonna die or get hurt, your animals are gonna die or get hurt.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times that we woke up in the middle of 3 o'clock in the morning and heard something attacking our animals or something, and I had to go out there and with a rifle, half asleep, and kill it. And if I would've said, I'm too sleepy," just hit the snooze button on that
Yeah.
chicken alarm out there, and, cockle-doo-dooing, and I'm going back to sleep. Then I woke up next morning, all my chickens were dead.
Oh, man. Yeah, you don't really think about that. So I guess my next question is what personality traits would not work well out there? Obviously, what you were saying, the easygoing, laid back, chill vibes or whatnot, that's not gonna fly out there.
Right.
What else? And you were saying being too smart wouldn't fly out there either?
Too knowledgeable.
Too
Yeah,
knowledgeable? Okay.
another I used to get this one a lot when I took interns and volunteers to different, countries, and then a lot with our commune members that wanna join our commune, is that the very and I'm gonna offend a lot of viewers,
Oh,
but
no!
the very, like, artsy and musicians and,
The creatives.
the very creatives. Don't get me wrong, that's an awesome skill to have. We all wish we were that
Yeah, we're
creative.
creatives.
Yeah, we're creatives, we're doing this.
Yeah.
But when it comes to a survival situation, literally the last thing you need is to play a song or to paint a painting or to make a necklace.
Yeah.
You absolutely have to get all the food and the water and the shelter and the, all the necessities done. So a lot of the time we get these people come out, we're like, what can you contribute to our growing little society? And they're like, I can paint pictures and I'm a great artist. And again, I think it's awesome, but we need some core strengths and core abilities.
Right.
And then we can implement all of the fun and happy vibes and make things that makes us happy, which is important too. It's critical. You have to be entertained. You have to have some relief. You have to be able to blow off some steam and relax on an emotional side as much as a physical side.
Mm.
But the physical actually absolutely has to come first.
Okay, I understand. It's not a necessary skill when you're out there to survival. Although it's important in this society, a lot of people need an outlet to channel their creativity or channel their emotions or whatnot. But when you're living bare bones out there, like you were saying, tackling all of the physical traits of surviving and thriving out there, creativity isn't necessarily a necessity quite yet.
Yeah. It's absolutely necessity out there.
Yeah.
Long run. You'll go crazy if you don't.
Yeah,
But yeah, at least for the first 80% of it.
I agree. I completely agree.
And we see this on a lot larger scale in our society today. When you leave society, you're not really leaving society. You're just building your own little society, micro society. So you could take everything that society is and just move it over, or you can do things completely different. And in our society today, we see that in like paintings and guitars that sell for a million. There's a painting I saw the other day. It was just all red. There was nothing else, just red paint. And it sold for like $2 million or something. And
Gosh.
I'm like, why are we painting pictures with red paint when there's children starving in Africa and there's children being sold into the slave market? That doesn't make any sense to me. Somebody gave somebody else $2 million that could have helped end world hunger
Mhm,
for a canvas filled with red paint. It blows my mind.
mhm.
Like I'm all for painting pictures, but let's end world hunger first.
Right, right,
If there's people starving, why are we doing that? It just doesn't make sense to me.
right, right. Yeah, I completely
I
agree.
don't get it.
We're not trying to attack the
No,
creative
no, no,
field at all.
no, because it's absolutely necessary.
Yeah,
But as long as there's children starving to death, it's
yeah.
not necessary.
Maybe the starving children is a higher priority
Yeah,
than
I don't get it.
right.
So that transfers right over to your own little society. If you're gonna just be painting pictures and playing music and being kumbaya around the fire, your living off the grid experience is not gonna last very long. And that's a big part of why the hippies kind of failed is that they
Right,
they didn't wanna work. They didn't wanna put in that they didn't wanna farm the land.
right,
They just wanted to, sit around the fire and play guitar and sing songs, which is
right.
awesome. That's what I wanna do too.
Yeah,
Don't get me wrong, I'm no different. I just wanna create things and paint and play music. I don't wanna be out in the middle of the night killing some animal or chipping at rock. That's hard work,
yeah. It is hard work.
and, nobody wants to do it.
Right. And it's funny because, like, I came here with that mindset, sort of, like, oh, I'm not hustling anymore. I'm not in college anymore. I just want to enjoy life. And I'm out here and I'm learning to be self sufficient, but I want to take the days slower. I want to take it day by day. I just sort of want to chill. It became a reality really quick that personality type isn't necessarily going to be the best when you're trying to live off grid because there are things that you have to maintain on a daily basis.
I mean, we have little portions of it.
Yeah, we get portions of that
Yeah.
sprinkled throughout our time
Yeah.
here.
Because again, it's critical. If you don't have it, you'll go crazy.
Right, exactly. But I think what helped me overcome that is just having an open mind and the desire to learn. My desire to learn and be self sufficient and survive out here and thrive out here was a lot more important to me than chilling, you know? So we're not saying that if you have that chill personality that you're not going to do good out here. Because I came into this with that mentality, that sort of personality. It's funny, I brought all of my art sketchbooks and all my water paints and my pens and my markers and stuff, and I haven't really touched it. Not
Yeah.
even
It's been 2.5
once.
years and
Yeah.
I don't think we've colored.
Yeah, well, in the beginning we sort of did, but then when shit hits the fan, it becomes a reality that that stuff kind of needs to go to the side. And you can do it. We're not trying to discourage you from trying to. If this is what you want to do and you have, strong motivations for doing it, there's not really anything that's going to stop you. You can always shift your mentality. You can always learn to improve yourself. So,
It goes back to that kind of knowledge base that you have to get before you leave, knowing how things are going to be out there,
mhm.
because you have this vision that society again has brainwashed you with, that I can go out there
Yeah.
and sit around the fire and sing songs and we can paint and
Yeah.
make necklaces and stuff. We saw that on TV our whole life growing up.
Yeah, you want to escape your reality.
Yeah.
And
And
this
I don't
is,
want to go out there and work. I can stay in here and work.
yeah,
But it's just one of those things that we're talking about, is that you have to have a more realistic outlook on what's going to happen out there.
right,
Because if you go out there with a guitar and paints and paintbrushes and you don't bring a pick with you, you're going to be rudely awakened to
right,
find out that it's not about sitting around the fire.
right, exactly. Anyways,
Moving on.
so,
Sorry to everybody again.
yeah,
Just disrespecting
yeah,
people right and left.
yeah.
Who's next? Next.
Businessmen, you're out.
You're out.
Politicians, you're not going to
Out.
survive out.
Skateboarders.
You're not going to survive.
Just kidding.
but but anyways, we're gonna now go into a little section about the basics of things.
That's perfect. That's well put. Very elegantly put.
Yeah. So, like we were saying before, acquiring skills very, very important. But if you just sort of prep yourself with just the basics of those skills, if you want to learn how to how to construct or build something, just learning the basics will get you a far way. It gets you leaps and bounds ahead of the average person who doesn't even understand what the basics are. So we're gonna have a tray of tools, and what we're gonna do is I'm going to pick out the tools
So you're
on
gonna
camera.
grab one and tell me what the name of it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna grab one, tell you what the name of it is, and maybe even what it's used
Oh,
for.
good. Okay.
And you're going to critique me
Okay.
and just bash me.
Okay.
No holds.
Okay. So it's just basically a normal day around here.
Yeah,
Okay. Gotcha.
exactly.
All right.
I've only been at this for about a year and a half or so. So I, I wouldn't say I'm necessarily like a beginner. I understand what a lot of these tools are and I use them on a day-to-day basis, but Dan has a much more in-depth knowledge of all of these tools. He's been doing it for almost 45 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was old enough to stand up, I was sitting in front of a truck engine, handing my dad tools while he was rebuilding.
Right, right. So, okay. So here we go.
And after this, I'll tell you about a fun little game that you can do with your partner or with your kids or family or friends to kind of help you with this.
I'm going to make myself look like an idiot. For our listening audience, I do apologize. This is a very visual segment. If you are curious on what tools we are referring to, please go check it out on our YouTube channel, Dan Martin Human. Otherwise, feel free to skip this segment. This is what I'm gravitating towards. This is a this is a pair of pliers.
Mm-hmm.
I know what it is because I use it the most often, and Dan asks for it almost every day.
Yeah. That's because just a very general tool that you can almost do everything with it. I mean, you can use it as like a hammer.
Yeah, I've seen him
You
use
know?
it as a hammer. There's a lot of variety of ways you can use a tool. So is it a machine plier?
Nope.
No, it's not a machine
No.
plier. Oh no. I
Yeah.
don't know. Okay, so it does this thing.
That
It like
good. Yeah. She just like extended it,
yeah,
made it bigger, and it does that thing.
yeah, it extends itself. There
Yeah.
you go. That's a better term for it. And it's not a machine plier. Okay.
Mm-mm. You
Um
actually use machine pliers all every day
I
too.
do, but
What
this
do they look like?
they look they look like this. See, so you see that hole here? There's like a some teeth with a hole in the middle here. And the machine pliers doesn't have that,
Right?
right? It has like a wire cutter.
Uh-huh.
It has a wire cutter that
And what else do they want?
and a blue handle.
That's critical. Machine pliers have blue handle,
That's how I tell the
and
difference.
regular pliers have red handle.
That's how I started this. Was he'd be like, "Hand me the machine pliers," and I'm like, "Okay, that's the one with the blue
So
handles."
if we ever have to replace our machine pliers and they have yellow handles, then
Oh.
you're out of luck.
Yeah, I'm done for.
Okay.
I wouldn't know the difference
Okay.
anymore.
Okay. Yeah. So what else does the machine pliers have up here at the top
Um.
above the wire cutters?
Oh gosh. Oh no, I don't know.
It's the teeth. Like when you open this one up, you see teeth inside here. Machine pliers have a very flat
Oh yeah.
surface.
Right. It doesn't jut out like this. It kind of caves in a little
Yeah.
bit and then it goes to a point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's right. So this is not a machine plier,
Nope.
guys. That's what we're learning today. I don't know what kind of
They're
pliers
just
these are.
normal.
Oh, okay. Just
pliers.
all right. These are a normal pliers.
Yeah. What are they used for?
They're used for holding beans.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. All
So
kinds of things.
yeah,
You can
it's
hold anything. You could hold another tool with them.
yeah. Give me that.
There you go.
There you go.
That's
But that's true. I've used it like this before. If I need leverage,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I need to turn this screwdriver, it
true.
gives me that leverage.
Yeah.
So it's good for it's like a vice grip almost for your hands.
Mhm.
So yeah, I use it a lot to like twist wires.
Mhm.
Like I put the wires in between these teeth and I
Mhm.
twist it.
Good. Good.
But yeah, that's and the difference and the reason why we're so adamant on identifying what kind of pliers these are is because there's different kinds of pliers and they're used for all different things. Like this is the next thing I'm gravitating towards. This is also a pair of pliers, but it's a lot longer and it has instead of that round tip up there, it's a lot more narrow. And I know these because they look so different. They're needle nose pliers.
Good.
Yay, and they're kind of used for the same thing, but if you need to, kind of go in there a little bit further and this
Yeah,
pair
if
of
you just got a
pliers
little space or something you need to get
yeah,
into.
like that little space there, I can very easily get this
Yeah.
needle nose plier in there so I can hold on to something and twist it or take it off or whatnot. So, okay, pliers. 2 pliers, different uses, different names.
We also have channel locks,
Oh yeah, we do have channel lock pliers.
and we have 90-degree needle nose, so they're bent at 90 degrees,
Oh yeah.
and that way you can get in 90 degrees. We have 45s, so you can get in at 45. All
Okay.
kinds of pliers.
Right. Okay. Next tool. This one is easy. It's a hammer.
What kind of hammer? Lots of hammers.
What kind of hammer? It's a ball pin hammer? Ball pin
Good,
hammer.
good,
Because
good.
there's a ball at the end,
Yeah.
which I have never used this ball. What is this for? I've never used this side before.
I've used it a lot.
What is it?
I'll use it to like if there's a bolt that is at the surface of the metal, and I need to push it down below the surface. I'll hit it with the ball peen side because
Oh.
this just hits the surface.
Oh.
I've used the ball peen to break up brick kinds of things.
Oh. Okay.
But originally, I think it's for metalworking.
Oh.
So like you got your hot metalworking, you can work it this way or you can work it this way.
Oh, I see. Okay. So ball pin hammer, different from a regular hammer.
Yeah.
Nail hammer? Is that what?
Claw hammer.
Claw hammer. Claw hammer is the one that you see on TVs all the time with the little claw thing at the end
Yeah.
instead of the ballpoint pin.
We have framing hammers, which are like claw hammers, but
Sledgehammers.
sledgehammers.
Yeah. All types of different hammers. So it's important to just not know what category of tools they belong to, but what specific type and what they're used for. Because I almost hit Dan.
That's not what they're used for.
No, we do not
Condone.
we do not condone violence with hammers around here. Okay, next theme. Okay, so these are the next tools. These are both screwdrivers. I use them, I think I use these almost as often as the pliers, to be honest with you. Because everything today comes with screws. My laptop comes with screws. This microphone has screws in them. That clock has screws. Lots of things comes with screws. I use them pretty often. This is a Phillips head screwdriver.
I don't know why it's called. I guess Philip invented it.
Oh,
It
okay.
used to just be this one. Everything was just this screw.
The flathead.
They never made the Phillips.
Oh, really? So
Yeah.
the flathead screwdriver came first.
Yeah, maybe hundreds or thousands of years. It was just a flathead screwdriver.
Oh, okay.
Flat screws.
Flathead screwdriver because it has a flat head. Pretty obvious. And this is a Phillips head screwdriver because it comes with Phillips head, I guess.
Yeah. So it was always this for screws, but one slot going through a screw is highly inefficient. It's really inefficient. Your screwdriver keeps slipping out.
Oh.
So they went to Phillips head, which doesn't have a slot that goes out at all. So your screwdriver always stays in the screw as long as you're pushing on it.
Well.
And now we have what's called torque head screws, which is like a hexagon or an octagon or something tip on here. And that's even more efficient.
Oh, the screwdrivers that come with all the IKEA furniture.
Yeah.
The Allen wrench or Allen screw.
Yeah, you can use an Allen wrench on it.
Right. Anyone who's ever built IKEA furniture, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They give you a little pouch of like nuts and screws
and Allen wrenches
and a little box of Allen wrenches.
Yeah, these, I don't know why people still use these.
Oh.
It's ridiculous.
This. Oh no. Oh. What is this?
You have, I don't think you've ever used that.
I don't think I've used this quite as much as the other
ones. A couple times.
Yeah, you've asked for it. I don't know what you use it for. It's a tool with the red handle. So I'm like, pliers? No.
What it is actually, this is kind of pliers. Anything that has a hinge point here or a swivel point here, and you're using your hand like this, is technically a type of plier.
Really? Yeah. Okay. So there's different holes here with different numbers on it. So
what type of work do I use? Do I use it for woodworking?
No, you don't.
Do I use it for metalworking?
No, you don't.
Do I use it for masonry?
No, you don't use this for plumbing either. You use
plumbing.
it for
What?
Electrical. So this is an electrical tool. Okay. Okay, so electrical. So these are holes for the wires, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And what's the numbers mean?
The numbers are the diameters of the wire.
Yep. They're the gauge of the wires. 8 gauge, 10 gauge, 12 gauge, 14 gauge.
Oh, okay. So this is like a thing to help you hold the wires.
Strip the wires.
Oh, strip the wires.
Takes the plastic jacket off the wire without cutting the wires inside.
Oh, okay.
So if I used a 14 gauge hole on, say, an 8 gauge wire, I would turn the 8 gauge wire into a 14 gauge wire, because that hole is only big enough for a 14 gauge wire to slip through.
Okay,
and by the way, 14 gauge is smaller than the larger numbers.
Yeah, that's really confusing. It's really confusing the first time I was learning about electrical.
I mean, lower.
Yeah. Cute.
So yeah, these are wire strippers.
Cool. All right, these two are levelers. I know what these are. The little bubble there, it's got to stay in the middle for you to know if something is level or not. And by level, we just mean it's flat, like 180 degrees.
Yeah, parallel to the surface of the earth.
Right.
To the flat surface of the earth.
Right.
Because the earth is flat.
Oh, wait, what?
Did
you say the earth is flat?
So a little thing that I run into a lot with workers and interns and volunteers is I'll tell them level it, use the level. The bubble will be in the middle, but off to the side there or something, not perfectly in the middle. I'll say, that's not level. And they'll say, What do you mean? The bubble's inside the middle. Well, the bubble, it's not good enough that the bubble's just inside the middle. It has to be in the center of the middle.
Mm.
And that's why these are kind of inefficient, is because you're kind of going on looking at it to gauge if
Mm.
something's level or not, as opposed to like laser levels and stuff.
Yeah.
They're much more precise.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay, and now we have a few pieces of hardware, which I'm not good at hardware at all. I'm terrible at hardware.
Hardware's a tough one. It
It's
takes a while to,
hard.
because when I was a kid, my dad wasn't like, hand me the 3/16 2-inch screw, button head screw.
Wow.
No, he wasn't doing that. I never learned that until I went into aviation and stuff.
Man, it is so hard. There's so many different kinds. Like this is a screw. And you know it's a screw because it comes to a point. But I don't know what it's used for because you can't use this screw for screwing into concrete or metal. It's specifically used for a certain type of material,
Which is,
which I think because we've been doing a lot of drywall, I think this is a drywall screw.
no, it's a
No?
wood screw.
Oh, it's a wood screw.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can tell by the
Oh.
threads. Really, really threads that are really separated apart and kind of big are drywall screws.
Mm.
Little tip here. I use drywall screws instead of wood screws on wood because the threads here are bigger and hold on to the wood better.
Mm.
So you'll have less separation than a tiny little thin wood screw like this.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and the closer your threads are together and the smaller they are, the less they jet out from
Yeah.
the harder material it is. So softest material, drywall, threads are huge, separated a lot. Hardest material, steel and metal, threads are tiny, really close together.
Got it. Okay.
And what type of screw is this?
A Phillips head
Good.
screw?
It's also a
Okay.
hex head.
Oh, hex
So you
head.
could put a socket or a,
Oh,
and
cool.
this specifically is a roofing screw.
Oh,
So this will
okay.
go through your roof into the wood.
I don't know how you
But
know that.
again, we use this for everything. We use this for hanging pictures and everything.
Oh, wow. That's insane. And that a screw is different from a bolt, which I didn't know about until I came here. I thought they were all the same. I thought they were just all screws, but a bolt doesn't have that. It doesn't come to a point. It's just flat here. I don't know why.
Because we don't need these to screw into a material. We use these because the nut is on them.
Okay, so you're not screwing into a material.
Right.
Oh my gosh, I'm just now learning this.
Yeah. So you're going to drill a hole through both materials.
Oh my
If it's
god.
wood
Okay, I
or
get it.
plastic or metal, you can drill a hole through both materials. This goes through real loose,
Mm-hmm.
and then you tighten them both up with a nut and a washer and whatnot.
Gotcha.
The pointed thing goes through materials. Some of them are actually self-drilling, so you don't even have to drill holes. Now, to make it even more complicated, your hardware stores will call some of these bolts screws. They'll call them pan head screws or button head screws or countersunk screws or flat head screws that are technically a bolt.
That's
But
confusing.
they will never call a screw that has a tip on it a bolt. But you could go to this hardware store right now, and that package might say number 10, because that's what this is. Button head, stainless steel. This is stainless steel. Phillips screw,
Man,
3/4 inch screw.
that is so confusing.
And it's not, it's a bolt.
Yeah. And then I just have two last pieces here, a washer and a nut.
Which should be pretty easy. I mean, we know what nuts and washers are.
Yeah, I worked with nuts and I worked with washer. Washer's just a space holder mostly, and the nut it just caps off the screw, pretty much.
Those are galvanized. So
Oh,
where did that galvanized use? Steel.
outside?
Yeah. Outside in the water, different, where moisture
Because
is.
it doesn't rust?
It will, but
Oh.
the galvanization on it acts as a sacrificial diode or
Oh.
anode, and it will, the electricity that's created in the water when the water's interacting with the different metal, eat that galvanization first before it eats your nut.
No, okay. So yeah, so hardware. It's a whole different world out there with hardware, and I am not. I don't even think I've scratched the surface of
Yeah,
it.
no, it's critical out there to have all the hardware you need because there's no hardware store.
I know.
We couldn't leave the property to buy anything, so we made sure we took everything with us. If I needed a bolt that I didn't have, I would melt down scrap metal, make a form, melt down metal and make my screws or my nails or my bolts. So yeah, know your hardware. To the game I promised you, make like bingo cards or flashcards, put different tools, different wrenches, the names on them and everything.
Hmm.
And then when you call out needle nose wrench, you don't have the name of it, but you have the picture of it. And
Hmm.
you say, that's a needle nose wrench right there.
That's fun.
Then you got bingo.
That's fun. Oh, I should play that.
I just made up the game right now, but sounds fun.
Creative. So next topic we want to talk about, other than acquiring skills, you also had to learn how to finance your venture out there. It's kind of ironic because you would think that living sustainably would be a lot cheaper, and it is in the long run,
Mhm.
but there are a lot of upfront costs that goes into it. And it's funny, it's like that phrase that says you need money to make money, and in this case you need money to
Not
not
make
make
money.
money.
Yeah, you got to pay to leave the game.
Yeah, you have to pay.
You have to
And
pay to leave. You have to pay to be in the game, and you have to pay to leave the game.
right, right. And in the long run, it pays off. It definitely saves you. But in the beginning, you had to sort of manage a lot of your finances and save up and sell things, right? So, how did you manage your finances before leaving society?
I was a very good captain. I knew how to play the game, and I played it well. I was a good cog in the machine.
Hmm.
I think I made my first million when I was 25, and I made another million when I was 28, right before we cashed out and left.
Wow.
I think we left with 1.87 at 1.87. And so I could play the game.
Wow. Okay, so you were already a millionaire before you left society.
Yeah.
S-
At
So,
28. Yeah.
so do you recommend that
You
everyone
become,
else?
you need to become a millionaire. No, because I mean, we acquired some things in order to leave. We got a kiln and we got tools. We bought a bobcat, and so we had some machinery out there. That's about it. But that's not $1 million, $2 million worth of stuff. That's
No.
a couple few $1,000s worth of stuff I
Right.
think we spent. Yeah, you don't need much, but I wasn't making money back then to leave society. I was making
Mm.
money so that I could live in a mansion and have a Ferrari and have
Mm.
and we did. We had jet skis, we had a brand new wakeboarding boat, multiple houses, a brand new truck.
You're living the American dream.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we were living 2 engineers.
Yeah.
We were living the good life. How we managed our funds before we left was I invested in real estate
Real estate.
and, rental properties before the housing bubble popped. Actually, it was people like me that made the bubble pop. So we cashed out before the bubble popped. Yeah, we made a lot of money.
Wow. Okay. So, can you sort of break down your approach to how you saved money? I
Yes,
mean, it's kind of easier for you because you were already, you know, you already had a lot of money in under your name. So,
yeah, but a big part of making money is
yeah.
saving money.
Uh-huh.
So, like, I mean, I wasn't there are people out there that make a lot more money than me
Right.
at that time, but my key was that I didn't spend it on the little things. We didn't go out to dinner ever. We didn't go out to movies ever. We
Mhm.
never went shopping for clothes or new shoes or that dollar bag of chips out of the vending machine and with a $1.50 soda every day at lunch.
Mhm.
You if you add up all the sodas and all the bags of chips you buy out of your vending machine at work every day, it comes out to tens of thousands of dollars over your lifetime.
Mhm.
That's tens of thousands of dollars you could have used to leave society.
Yeah, it really, really is.
So it's the little things that
That add
added
up.
up.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I completely agree with you.
Yeah, we
Being
just
frugal is just the way you should be, even in society.
yeah, I think that was also a learning thing for us. We taught ourselves how to not need things,
Mm.
how to not be materialistic, how to not be capitalistic, how we didn't need to spend things, we didn't need to go out. And that kind of prepared us for being off the grid and not doing any of
Mm.
those things.
I see. I see. So, what about all of your personal belongings and stuff? What did you do with that?
We got rid of it all. We got rid of the cookie cutter suburban home with the white picket fence.
Yeah.
We burned our phones, we burned computers, burned all of our personal belongings,
My goodness.
um, pictures, CDs. We burned wads of cash, had a huge bonfire before we left, and just
Why? Why burn it all, especially the cash? Like, I can't imagine anyone burning actual physical money. I mean, we can all say we need a little bit more money in our lives, right?
yeah.
So why, like even our viewers, they need money. So why not just give it all away? I feel like that should have been. I would have just given all your stuff away.
But that's exactly why, because we need these things. Things, stuff have become an addiction. We're addicted consumers. I mean, why else would we go through what we go through day in and day out? The hell we put ourselves through and our families through, if not because we are completely addicted to these things. And money is at the root of all of that. Money is the root of all evil. Why on earth would I give someone else the root of all evil? Here you go. Here's the root of all evil for you.
I
That's a nice thing for me to do. You're making it sound like it's a nice thing to give people these things and this money, but it's a horrible thing. It's a curse. So we're addicted to things, right? We're addicted to money. We know this.
Mhm.
That's like being addicted to, say, I don't know, heroin, and you're trying to kick your addiction. So you just give that heroin to another addict.
Mm,
Does that make sense? No.
no.
You know, you, and I can't express this enough. You have to burn it. Burn it all, douse in the flames. When
My
you,
God.
you can't just throw it away. You can't give it away. When you burn something, when you burn your things, there's a certain finality to it. There is, when you see that flame burning, when you see your things being physically destroyed, when you give them away, there's not that disconnection. But when they're physically destroyed, you have that disconnect. And that disconnect can only occur through fire,
Mhm.
through death, rather than just dropping them off at the local Goodwill.
Mm.
By burning your stuff and your money, you not only destroy those things, you destroy that money, you destroy that, as you said, need inside you for them.
Mhm.
And that's what we were going for. That's what we needed in order to totally and completely disconnect from society and all societal things and all forms. We had to destroy that need inside of us. And that's what we did by destroying that. It's
Wow.
representative of destroying inside of us. That fire that burns in us, we had to emanate that in a real fire.
Wow. So it was a very symbolic moment for you to burn all of your stuff. It's also very dramatic.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It has to be extremely dramatic
Oh, okay.
because look how dramatic we act to gain these things and to
That's
make
true.
money.
Yeah.
Like that's the most dramatic thing we do in life is try to make money and the ways we make money. And
Yeah.
I mean, people go to prison for the rest of life because they went and tried to get money in a certain way,
Right.
dramatically, illegally. This thing we have programmed into us about stuff and money is so deeply rooted that the symbolism behind it has to be that deep also. And
Mm.
the most extreme thing you can do to something that I know of, I mean, I can't cast out in space or something, but is to burn it.
I
And
see.
it really does do something. Psychologists have documenting results of burning. You write down your
Oh,
fears
yeah.
and you write down
Toss them in the fire.
toss
Yeah.
them in the fire or set them out to sea,
Burn your ex's pictures.
your ex's
Yeah.
pictures, and it does something. It's euphoric.
Mm.
It feels good. And when we threw wads of cash, thousands, I wouldn't say tens of thousands, but thousands of dollars into the fire, it was like, it kind of ripped something open in you. And you were
Wow.
like, that means nothing to me. It's literally paper and I don't need it anymore. So going from a multimillionaire to I don't need any money anymore was a huge, dramatic, drastic change.
Yeah.
It might have been easier for someone that was very poor and never had anything to make that
Mm.
transition. But for someone at the top of their field, at the top of that level in society, to go to that level, probably the most dramatic thing I've ever done.
Okay, I see. I understand. So, for everyone who's watching, that is step number 4 is burn all of your stuff, burn all your money, create a huge bonfire before you leave society.
They're like, "My bonfire is gonna be very little. I only got $5 in my wallet."
My coins. It's so funny. But yeah, finances alone can be its own episode, because there's so much that goes into it. Like I kind of want to talk more about the upfront cost and kind of pick your mind about how much it costs you. Because there's a lot of upfront costs. There's land that you have to buy, raw materials to build your structure, transportation, I don't know, and then other things that you need out there. So I wonder if we can maybe like break down everything and see what is actually the cheapest option out there for people who are looking to start financing and budgeting things. So for you personally, how much was the land that you bought?
We had something around, I think, 3,000 acres, and we
Whoa,
paid, I think we paid 30,000 for it or something.
for 3,000 acres?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
uh, That's why we went to where we went in, West
Because the
Texas.
land was cheap.
Yeah, it's the desert.
Yeah.
It was classified as uninhabitable land, and there are only a few places in the United States that's classified as that, like, Death Valley and,
Mm,
parts of northern Alaska.
mm.
Although indigenous people have been
Habiting.
habiting these places for millions of years.
Yeah.
But yeah, nothing grows out there. There's no materials. There's no gas stations. There's no grocery stores. There's no ambulances. There's no 911. Like you couldn't even call. There's no phone service.
Right.
So you couldn't even call 911. And if you could get all of them, they wouldn't go out there. You have to have a 911 address
Mm.
for 911 to come to you. And we had no addresses.
Mhm.
There's no roads. There's nothing. So if you're going to get really, really, really cheap land, then you're going to have to really work really, really, really hard for the same level of comfort as someone that got really, really, really expensive land.
Mhm.
They would have to work a lot less than we'd have to.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
you're going to trade off.
Right. Yeah. If you're going to live off grid, you're going to need some kind of land. And if you're going to grow your own food and live sustainably and have livestock and whatever, you need several acres, but not necessarily 3,000 acres, right?
Well, in the desert, you'd need at least hundreds of acres
Oh, wow.
because the food is so sparse.
Oh,
That
okay.
that the that the livestock were first of all, I don't think cows could ever sustain themselves in the desert, maybe longhorns, but we used African boar goats
Yeah.
that are used to hot, dry, and they would eat cactuses with the thorns and everything.
Oh, okay.
Whatever grass was growing out there, they'd eat that. But they had to travel. Probably they'd travel, I'd say 20, 30 miles in a day in one loop. And then another day, they'd do another 20, 30 miles in a different loop and then another loop over here. And then by the time they got back around to that area that they had grazed weeks later, it would have grown back enough for them to eat it.
Okay, I
But if
see.
you're in the rainforest of Honduras
Yeah.
or Peru, where literally, like when we were down there, we hacked this trail through the jungle and we were there for a week or 5, 6 days. When we came back, it was all overgrown.
Oh, okay.
6 days, it all grew back. And so if you're down there, you could live off a quarter acre
Wow. Okay.
with the same needs as we had.
Gotcha. Yeah, and like you were saying, the amount of what you have to pay for the upfront cost of the land obviously is going to fluctuate depending on where you're at. You found 3,000 acres of land for
I think
$30,000
it was 40,000, something like that.
right, in West Texas, which is like extremely cheap for that much of that amount of land.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to live off grid in California,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, you're
you're
gonna
gonna
pay
get
$400,000 for a little lot.
yeah, exactly. So it really depends. A small plot of rural land in on average is like you said, it may be 20,000 to 30,000. And this is just a small plot, not
Yeah.
3,000 acres.
Yeah.
So already immediately you already have to pocket like out of pocket pay for $20,000 worth of land on the cheaper side.
Mhm.
So you already have to start thinking about saving up for that or getting enough income to where you can purchase the land up front.
There's other options though.
Oh,
You can squat. A lot of these farm
legally?
Yeah.
Okay.
Squatting is actually a legal thing. If you squat on land, don't quote me on this, but I think for more than 13 years or 15 years, you legally own the land in certain states. So there's a lot of people that just backpack up into Washington and Alaskan mountains
Yeah.
and just live on other people's land that these people never go to their land their entire life. It was
Wow.
probably passed down generation to generation. They've never seen their land. Or they squat in national parks where it's so thick and dense up there in the Rocky Mountains that rangers never find them. I worked for one of the founders of PayPal
Mm.
on a project he called the Seasteading Institute, where we made floating islands out in international waters
Mm.
where nobody owns that, you
Mm.
know. So you have some other options.
Okay, I see. Yeah, definitely. But if you're trying to go the more traditional route, purchasing land, it's important that you keep those upfront costs in mind.
Yeah, for at least 40 grand. I
Right.
think you could probably guesstimate on up to 80, 100,000 easily.
Mm-hmm. And then another upfront cost is housing. Obviously, you can purchase a plot of land that already has a structure on it, but that's not always the case with a lot of the off-grid living acres that you find out there. So you may need to build a home or purchase a cabin or buy an RV, or like you did, you lived in your truck camper for 2 years before
Mm.
you built a structure out there. So you did it in a very sustainable way. You found a lot of free items and you repurposed and recycled. So you may, on the cheaper side, if you're gonna do it like how Dan did it, you may get away with just spending 10,000 or so. How much did you spend on your structure?
I think it was like $187.
What?
Yeah. If we built two things. First, we built a house out of 100% recycled material, which was completely free. We got it from Free Cycle. We got it from warehouses that had blown down, and the property owner was giving away the metal and stuff.
Oh my goodness.
But we used new bolts and new hardware.
Mm.
So I think we paid like $187 worth of screws and bolts and hardware.
Wow.
The other thing we did was built our house completely out of natural materials that we could harvest and mine on our property.
Mm.
So a lot of rock. We made adobe. There's a
Mhm.
lot of clay in the desert, a lot of sand in the desert. That's going back to that dream of wants and needs. And
Right.
I want to build a log cabin. That's been my dream. I'm going and go out the desert because that's where land is cheap. And I'm going to build this log cabin. No, build a log cabin where there's a thick, heavy, dense forest,
Right.
and build an adobe house where there's not a thick, heavy, dense forest.
Right, right.
So use the natural materials that are there as
Yeah.
much as possible.
Wow, that's incredible. I didn't know you built your house with under
Well, we
$200.
burned all our cash in the fire, but we had $187.
You used all of that.
And just our coins, we had $187 worth of quarters left.
But yeah, you can do what Dan did. So it's definitely feasible. It's not impossible to build a structure for extremely cheap. If you don't have the knowledge or the materials, you may need to budget that into your financial plan.
And again, it goes back to that balance of if you use less money, you're going to end up working more.
Mhm.
And if you use more money, you're going to work less.
Mm.
So yeah, we could have bought a nice mobile home or RV or something, stayed in the line for a couple 100,000 and
Mhm.
parked it out there and never had to build anything.
Mm.
Or we could say we're going to do this all ourselves and bust our butts for 2 years. So yeah, it just depends. You're going to pay more for less work and work more for less pay.
Gotcha, gotcha. And then the next upfront cost that people don't think about is your power. What are you gonna do to generate all of the energy that needs to power and heat your home or cool your home? The popular ways to do that is solar power or wind power. And if you're gonna go those routes and you're not planning on building it on your own from scratch, you are going to expect out of pocket costs of, I wanna say it's a lot cheaper now, so like maybe 10 grand. But
Yeah, you could build a solar system for 10 grand, small solar system, 10 grand.
right, but, like, when Dan went out there, it was, like, a
Yeah, it was
hundred
100.
grand.
Yeah,
Yeah,
easy.
100,000, right?
Yeah.
Now you can expect to get solar panels out there for a little bit cheaper. How much did you spend?
We built our own solar panel.
That's what I thought.
So, yeah, we didn't really spend too much. But again, this goes back to, and it tells you in the book how to make your own solar cells.
Mhm.
But our solar panels were so low grade, they were so inefficient that they were putting out watts or tens of watts, sometimes microwatts. Today, now they're putting out hundreds of watts, sometimes thousands of watts.
Oh.
But it goes back to that wants and needs. If you are knowledgeable about what you actually need out there, you don't need a dryer, you don't need a washer, you
Yeah.
don't need air conditioning, you don't need a television, then your electrical needs are going to be a lot less, and you can get away with watts or dozens of watts or hundreds of watts
Got
solar
it.
panels. But if you're going to go out there and say, I want a washing machine, I want air conditioning, yeah, you're going to pay tens of thousands of dollars for it. And that goes back to picking and choosing where you're going to live. If you're going to
Mm.
live up in Alaska, you need a huge heating supply. If you're going to live out in Death Valley, you need a cooling supply.
Mhm.
And that can be natural and passive instead of air conditioning. But you want to pick, actually, heating and cooling is probably the foremost decision that you're going to make. And I
Oh.
would suggest getting land in a climate neutral place. And there are several of them along the West Coast. It stays very climate neutral. Around Arkansas at a certain elevation, it's very climate neutral. Not too hot, not too cold. So you're not battling the heat and the cold. And then that transfers over to growing. You're not battling the heat and cold for growing food and seasons. In climate neutral areas, food grows all year round and fast.
I see. Where you're gonna get your energy source. It's important to think about that.
Yeah, if you are buying property with a little creek going through it, you got water turbines that produce electricity day and night.
Right.
Solar only produces during the daytime, and wind
Right.
turbines only produce when it's windy.
Right. Yeah. And speaking about water, that's another upfront cost that you're going to have to consider into your financial plan. We were talking a little earlier about installing a well on your property, which can cost a few $1,000s if you're going to have someone come out there to build a well for you. If you're going to do it yourself, it takes material and maintenance and whatnot. So you still have to budget for that also.
Yeah, absolutely. Even our rain catchment systems, we had to make big tanks for storage and
How much
gutter
did it cost
systems.
you?
Um, Probably hundreds, maybe probably $500, $800. I don't think
Oh,
more than
okay.
that, but it was enough to provide us with enough water to feed, to give all of us water, our plants water, and our livestock water
Right.
year round.
Yeah, and like you were saying, you might get lucky and find a property with a natural water source on there. In that case, you may need to find a way to treat and filtrate the water so you can consume it, which may cost a few hundred too. And then to transport the water, you may need a water pump, or if you're willing to go out there every morning
Hmm.
and transport it. So there's more cost that comes with that.
Water would be the number two thing
Most
I would look for.
okay.
Yeah, if you had a creek going, a year-round creek on your property, you have water, you have heating and cooling, food supply, the fish and the crawfish and the clams. You have electricity, and you have just a place to cool off and swim in. It's a huge, huge plus in a property.
Yeah, definitely. And then the next upfront cost that most people don't think about is your septic system. What are you going to do with all of your waste? I think in your case, you had a compost toilet, right?
Hmm.
Which is a lot more, it's way cheaper to build, but it does require a lot more maintenance. Right now, we have a septic tank. That's where all of our waste goes into. I don't know how much you spent
I
on,
built it.
you built it.
Hmm.
So you didn't spend any money other
Uh,
than the raw materials,
yeah, just the piping, I think.
right?
That was one of the elements that we left society not knowing anything about.
Your
Well,
waste management?
waste management. I
Oh,
never went to school for waste management.
yeah.
There's no classes on waste management. I wouldn't even want to go to school for waste management.
No, yeah.
But I didn't know how to make a septic tank. I didn't know how to make a compost toilet. And we bought this compost toilet. I don't remember the brand name of it, but never buy that brand. I wish I could remember the name of it, but it was the top line, best compost toilet you could get. And we bought that toilet and it never worked.
Mm.
And I took it apart and out there learned how composting works, how fast human waste turns into fertilizer, how to help safely, healthy handle and have a compost toilet. And then I threw that one away and built my own compost toilet. And then threw that one away and built another one. And then threw that away. I think the third or fourth iteration worked really, really good. And that was actually the compost toilet design that I used in Haiti after the earthquake. The Port-au-Prince Municipal Corps of Engineers had me come out there and teach them how to make this compost toilet. And they put it in all the different tent cities at the time.
Wow.
And because they didn't have any kind of sewer system anymore. And then when I went back over there for the cholera outbreaks, I got to see all my toilets and
Oh,
all over the place.
wow. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, that's a good compost toilet. So
Yeah.
yeah, learn how to waste management.
Yeah. Is that building the compost toilet? Is that in your book?
Yeah,
Okay. So,
and a septic tank too.
oh,
How to build a
awesome.
septic tank. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. That would save you a lot of money and into something that you don't really think about until you're out there.
And it gives you fertilizer for your plants.
There you go. Yeah. So the expenses that we talked about are obviously the larger upfront costs. So I'm just going to do the calculations really quick. I am a math major, guys. That's the only thing I can do as a math major is very simple arithmetic into a calculator.
Yeah. I remember when I was a kid, this is a common saying, but when I was a kid, our teachers told us, we'd say, why do we have to learn math? They say, because you're not going to have a calculator in your pocket when you're all the time. And now everybody has calculators in their pocket all the time. And then we had to learn cursive. And I thought, why do we have to learn cursive? And since then, I've never had to use cursive. I've been on this planet for almost 40 years since I learned how to write in cursive and never once used cursive. In
That is
fact,
so
I
funny.
don't think I've even written anything in like 10 years. Everything's typed or texted in now.
That is so
So I
true.
don't even write anything anymore. Like you don't even need to learn how to write.
That is very true. Yeah, it's funny. I saw a video this morning about how this new generation doesn't understand how to read cursive or read road maps.
Good. Well, roadmap soon, but cursive, like that should have been tossed out 100 years ago.
Yeah. And it's funny because like she was saying that as it was a bad thing, like these kids don't know how to read cursive.
Yeah.
And first of all, like it's a very old tradition that we don't even use. Like my age and your age, we don't really use cursive at all. Everything is typed or just written normally. And also like you guys are the ones who are supposed to teach us. So whose fault
Yeah.
is it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, oh, these kids don't know how to write cursive. Well, like, darn, you should have taught us if you're gonna make such a big complaint about it, you know?
Yeah.
But anyways, that was a rant about society.
And why to leave society?
Yeah, exactly.
We'll have a whole episode of why you should leave society.
Yeah. So we have okay, so back to finances. Land, 20,000. Housing, 10,000. Power, 15,000. Water, 5,000. Septic, another 5,000. That adds up to already $55,000 alone. And we're trying to calculate this on a cheaper side. Not as Dan cheap, because Dan cheap was almost
Almost,
$500.
yeah, almost basically free.
Yeah.
We try to do everything for free.
Right. It was practice. Oh, other than the land, which you guys paid,
Mhm.
30,000 for.
Yeah, I think it was 40,000 or 42,000 or something like that.
Right. So with all of everything considered, and obviously you're going to miss out on a few things, but these are just the larger upfront costs. You're going to need to budget at least $55,000 to start looking for land, building your house and water, septic, all of that stuff. And then there's smaller upfront costs that you're going to need to maintain throughout the time that you're out there, like livestock. You're going to need to pay some upfront costs for livestock, seeds, tools. Yeah, exactly. So there's I want to say maybe that's another 10,000 or
Yeah.
so on the cheaper side.
Mm.
So totaling out upfront costs, larger and smaller, will probably be around 65,000. That's something that you need to start budgeting into your financial plan. So we are going to have to do a part 2.
We talk so much.
I know. Because we still have a few more points that we would like to go over with prepping.
There's
Uh,
just so much to just prepping alone that I mean, we could do a 10-part series in
yeah,
just prepping. We could do
yeah.
100. That's what I'm saying, there's no cutoff for it. We could do 100 episodes.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, I'm trying to follow your book as much as possible, but there's so many different ways you can go out there to prepare yourself to leave society or to just be more self-sufficient. So this isn't definitely the Bible,
Yeah.
but it's sort of what Dan did to prepare himself.
And just to let you guys know, there's a whole chapter on what we did to prepare to go off the grid. And this book is almost 300 pages long. The original version of that book was 15,000
15,000.
pages long.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're getting a really condensed micro version of how to prepare for this.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, you guys, we're gonna have to cut it here. It is already an hour and 31-minute mark. So
Nice.
next time we'll talk about research, all of the research that it takes to look for things such as land, look for things such as livestock and renewable energy, different kind of shelters and whatnot. And then the part everyone wants to know is quitting your job and retiring.
That's easy. I quit.
I guess. Actually, yeah, you know what? Not the part everyone wants to know. The part that is the easiest for everyone to do, quitting their job
How to
and
quit your
retiring.
job
Yeah.
and retire
How to quit your job
at
properly.
28.
Yeah. So tune in next time for part 2.
See you later.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode. Be sure to pick up a copy of Dan Martin's book, Breaking the Grid, at familius.com. Link below. And of course, please like, subscribe, and share.